This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity Podcast. Today we're going to discuss 9 stories that we're following today, and we hope that you enjoy this. If you text me with an idea, you're the first person to text me in this 9 Stories podcast. I'm at 773-766-5322, and thrilled to send you the 100-hour Amazon gift certificate. So thank you for listening. First, and this is a prescript of the stories that we're covering today, but it matters. New York Community Bank is now down 26% Friday and 65% year to date. The Wall Street Journal reports this is reigniting fears about whether we're going to see more regional bank failures, which would be a disaster for our banking system in the country. There's only so much of that we could take. Second, Dell, the company that Michael Dell built, jumped 32% Friday. It met its revenue expectations. It beat its earnings estimates. What an incredible long-term transformation that Michael Dell has done with Dell Technologies in its business. The third story, RadNet operates 366 imaging centers. It also jumped 17% this Friday. Its procedures were up, its volumes were up, its revenues reached $420 million. Same-store procedures rose 5.5%. Revenues generally rose to $420 million and overall procedures rose almost 8%. Just a huge boon, and we're seeing more of that in the healthcare economy as we're seeing the healthcare economy bounce back tremendously from 2022, and much better in 23, and seems to be going a lot better this year. Fourth, Spirit AeroSystems, supplier for airplane manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus, rose 15% on news that Boeing may buy Spirit AeroSystems. Fifth story we're following today, Domino's up 8.5% year to date. Its revenues are growing by selling more pizzas, not just raising prices. It was contrasted to McDonald's and some other places where they're raising prices, and that's the only growth they're having. Domino's is actually rising and so forth. Today, thrilled to speak today at the Federation of American Hospitals meeting in Orlando, Florida, keynote panel, and get a chance to talk about healthcare trends. So excited about that. Right. Seventh, next, excited to do a podcast on the commitments to greatness and perfection. It's fascinating to watch a leader push their team to greatness and excellence. And there's a whole story there on hitting the right balance and so forth. And sometimes that balance is sustainable, sometimes it's not. But we'll talk about that in a separate podcast on the commitment to greatness and perfection. Fascinating to watch that. Next story the following. The markets are flat today. They rallied last week on relatively good inflation news, and NVIDIA also passed $2 trillion in market cap. Speaking of which, market cap 8, the 3 largest market cap stocks now, Microsoft above $3 trillion, Apple at about $2.75 trillion, and NVIDIA at approximately $2 trillion plus, $2.05 trillion. Apple is now down 7% year to date. Tesla, which has fallen out of the top 10, is now down nearly 18.5% year to date. It's about the 11th or 12th U.S. company in terms of market cap now. In any event, those are some of the stories we're following today. We'll have a separate podcast on the 7 largest companies by revenues, where Walmart remains number 1, Amazon number 2, but that gap is closing. And we'll talk about a few more things on a couple other podcasts. Thank you so much for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast.